Hello, hello. I am Crystal Craven, and I sing, I songwrite, I lead worship, and I am passionate about sharing what God inspires. And this, coming up right here, is your weekly devotional. All right, we are in Luke 24, and last week we had looked at how the women went to the tomb and they discovered that Jesus had resurrected. And now we are in Luke 24, verses 10 through 12. And it says, "Now it was Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women with them who told these things to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter rose and ran to the tomb. Stooping in and looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves, and he went home marveling at what had happened." All right, so that morning, the tomb was empty. The stone had been rolled away, the angels had appeared, and Jesus was alive, just as he said. So that was the message that the women returned with to tell the apostles. But rather than spark instant joy or celebration, their message was met with skepticism. It says these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. Now, in a time and culture where the testimony of women was often dismissed back then, the reaction of the disciples was sadly predictable. But what's remarkable is that despite the culture, the women shared anyway. They didn't let their cultural position or their gender or fear of being disbelieved stop them from speaking the truth. They had seen and heard something absolutely life-changing, and it compelled them to share. Now, that's the essence of a testimony. It isn't about convincing others. It's about faithfully declaring what God has done. And the responsibility of belief lies solely with the hearer. And in this passage, we see two distinct responses. Most of the apostles dismissed the women's words, but Peter, impulsive, passionate, imperfect Peter, he ran. He didn't argue. He didn't wait. He ran to see for himself. And though he didn't yet fully understand, Scripture says that he went home marveling. And the same is true today. When we share what God has done in our lives, like how he has rescued and healed and redeemed or transformed us, some people will dismiss it. They'll label it as wishful thinking or coincidence or even in some cases delusion. But others will hear, and something in them will stir. They may not believe fully in that moment, but they'll be drawn to investigate and search for truth, and the Spirit of God will work through that curiosity. So with that, keep sharing. Don't be silenced by the fear of rejection. And don't let someone else's potential unbelief prevent you from proclaiming your testimony of truth and of hope. You're not responsible for converting people, but you have been called to faithfully share the gospel. And some will hear and believe, and others will hear and reject. But the response of others shouldn't shape our faithfulness to the call of God. My friend has a tattoo of a quote that is a really great reminder. And it says, "Your story could be the key that unlocks someone else's prison." And your story, much like the women at the tomb, it can be used by God in the lives of others. But that requires actually sharing those testimonies of how God has worked in your life. And as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 1, in verses 27 through 29, he said, "God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise, so that no human being might boast in the presence of God. God delights in using unexpected messengers to proclaim his power. And yes, sometimes it is a humbling experience, often even every time you share certain testimonies, especially if God had corrected you in something. But it not only has the opportunity for God to use that in someone else's life, but think it further cements that lesson that God taught you in the first place every time you share it. Your testimony matters. Even if it's dismissed as, well, like the women, an idle tale, speak it anyway. Someone like Peter may be listening and end up running toward Jesus because of what you share. For blogs, written devotionals, and originally written songs, visit crystalcravenmusic.com, and that is Crystal with a K and Craven with a C.